Of congratulations from his American counterpart Donald Trump on the occasion of the 63rd anniversary of Algeria's independence. And entrusted by the President of the Republic, the Prime Minister Nabil Arbawi is on a visit to Osaka, Japan to supervise the National Day organized as part of the Expo Osaka 2025 World Exhibition. And President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has received the Senior Political and Reporting Officer at the African Union's Mechanism for Promoting Police Cooperation among Member States, AFRIPOL. And as indirect negotiations have resumed in Doha to try and reach a ceasefire in Gaza, more strikes were carried out today by the Israeli occupation of Gaza territory, killing and wounding several Palestinians. And those were the major developments. Now, the full news edition. I'm Asia Bakar. Good afternoon. Here in Algiers, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has received a letter of congratulations from his American counterpart, Donald Trump, on the occasion of the 63rd anniversary of Algeria's independence. In his letter, President Trump extended his and the American people's greetings on the occasion of Independence Day, coinciding with July 5th. He highlighted on the occasion the sustained partnership linking Algeria and the United States and the achievements made by the two countries to ensure regional security. President Trump also hailed the efforts undertaken to fight terrorism and to secure the borders in order to ensure common security and promote economic relations. The U.S. President stressed that within the current context, cooperation would allow for a better future for both the Americans and Algerians. In the end, President Trump said that his country aspires to promote the U.S.-Algerian relations and boost exchanges, notably in the trade, cultural fields, to achieve progress for both countries. Entrusted by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, the Prime Minister Nabil Arbawi is on a visit to Osaka, Japan to supervise the National Day organized as part of the Expo Osaka 2025 World Exhibition under the theme Designing the Society of the Future, Imagining Our Life Tomorrow. The Prime Minister will be accompanied by the Minister of Culture and Art, Mr. Zohair Bellalo, and the Minister of Tourism and Handicrafts, Ms. Houria Madahi. Algeria's participation in the event highlights Algeria's civilizational and cultural heritage, as well as its economic assets and the investment opportunities it offers through the booth Anwar Al Jazair. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has chaired a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to addressing two draft laws on preventing and combating money laundering and the financing of terrorism and on the protection of natural persons with regard to the processing of personal data, as well as presentations on automotive industry projects. Mariam Borshi has the details.
The Council of Ministers approved the two draft laws, taking into account the President of the Republic's statement that Algeria had introduced rigorous rules and control mechanisms to combat all forms of corruption after having taken important steps in the fight against all forms of crime, particularly those linked to financial matters, as well as in the protection of individuals. Regarding firefighting resources, the President ordered that the level of vigilance be increased to the maximum over the coming weeks in anticipation of rising temperatures. He ordered that extreme caution be exercised during the harvesting operations and that all resources be mobilized and efforts coordinated proactively to ward off any possible fires. As for the progress of car manufacturing projects in Algeria, President Tebboune praised the sincere dealers who are working to establish a genuine car industry, thus breaking with the dark history of certain fraudsters who were operating in this sector before 2019. The President affirmed that approval for the construction and import of vehicles were the exclusive responsibility of the Council of Ministers. He stressed the necessity of involving Algerian subcontracting companies qualified in the various specialties of the automotive industry as a sine qua non condition. President Tebboune ordered that the sector be opened up to national industrial companies in the fields of automobile, electricity, spare parts and others. President Tebboune said that the strategic objective was to lay the foundations for a genuine emerging mechanical engineering industry through the automotive construction projects currently underway in order to achieve a contribution to gross domestic product, GDP, of at least 12%.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Al-Majid Tebboune, has received the Senior Political and Reporting Officer at the African Union's Mechanism for Promoting Police Cooperation Among Member States, the AFRIPOL, Mr. Shiko Tijan Sesai. He stressed to Radio Algeria International that Algeria is an African Union champion on prevention of counter-terrorism and it plays a leading role in all the efforts of the AU.
I would like to inform you that Algeria is an African Union champion on prevention of counter-terrorism, on the prevention of terrorism and also in terms of counter-terrorism. So Algeria is a leader of our continent in all of these efforts, and so it is no surprise that they are hosting AFRIPOL here, but they are also hosting the African Union Center for counter-terrorism here. And so, and beyond that, Algeria continues to play a leading role in all of these efforts that the AU, the African Union, engages in terms of countering terrorism, transnational organized crime and cybercrime on the continent. So we remain very grateful for this leading role, and also the support that it continues to provide to the African Union through these institutions and other institutions, the leading role that it continues to provide. So that is what I can say. Even for this meeting, they have provided us with transport support right from the airport to the venue where we are today holding this meeting. It was facilitated by the government of Algeria, of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. The CEO of Italian energy giant Eni, Mr. Claudio Descalzi, stated on Monday that his company's relations with Algerian partners were very privileged, emphasizing that the country's investment or the company's investment in Algeria are expected to exceed the $8 billion. Miriam Barshi.
Following a meeting with President Abdelmajid Tebboune, Mr. Descalzi told the press that the president was satisfied with what Eni is accomplishing in Algeria. He said if Eni succeeds in completing the current projects, the total investment will exceed $8 billion, which reflects the importance of this partnership. The Italian official added that the talks with the president focused on issues related to development in Algeria and not just natural gas and oil. After praising the very privileged relationship Eni shares with the Sonatrach Group, the Ministry of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energies and all partners in Algeria, Mr. Descalzi indicated that the contract signed today with Sonatrach for the exploration and exploitation of hydrocarbons in the contractual area of Zumul Kbar in Ouargla province will allow the immediate increase of production thanks to an investment of nearly $1.3 billion. In this regard, Eni's executive director indicated that work is continuing to develop additional projects with Sonatrach aimed at increasing natural gas production capacity from 5 to 7 billion cubic meters per year.
We are currently preparing other projects with Sonatrach to further increase production up to between 5 and 7 billion cubic meters per year, including very important projects in the field of renewable energy. We start with solar, but we are also talking about legendary projects. We are also talking about decarbonization to capture emissions and save gas, which is a very clean product, and to be able to save gas. Thus, there won't be only oil and gas, but also all the different components of clean energy.
These extremely important projects include the development of new and renewable energies, particularly solar energy and green hydrogen, as well as decarbonization projects with the possibility of exporting volumes of natural gas. At the end of his statement, the Italian official indicated that the two parties had also begun implementing projects and initiatives aimed at ensuring forest protection and reforestation.
And on behalf of the President of the Republic, Mr. Al-Majid Tebboune, the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, is in Kuala Lumpur as part of an official visit to Malaysia. The visit is part of the Minister of State's participation in the signing ceremony for Algeria's accession to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, as part of the 58th session of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian nations. During his stay in Kuala Lumpur, Mr. Attaf will discuss with his Malaysian counterpart ways to strengthen partnership and cooperation between the two countries. He will also hold bilateral talks with the Secretary General of ASEAN and with several foreign ministers participating in the meeting of this regional organization. And now the Sonatrach Group has signed a production sharing contract with the Italian group Eni here in Algiers for the exploration and exploitation of hydrocarbons in the Zemmoul El Kbar contract area in Ouargla province. The CEO of the Sonatrach Group, Rashid Hashishi, said the contract signed according to law number 1913 on hydrocarbons is for a period of 30 years, extendable for an additional 10 years, and includes a 7-year exploration period.
This contract extends over a period of 30 years, extendable for an additional 10 years, and includes a 7-year exploration and research period. A total investment of approximately $1.35 billion has been allocated for this project, of which $110 million are allocated for research and exploration activities. This reflects the trust of our partners in the capabilities of Algeria and its institutions headed by Sonatrach in developing strong energy projects. This contract represents a qualitative step towards employing the latest digital solutions and innovative technologies in the fields of production and exploitation, in addition to improving the productivity of wells and recovering reserves, which is in line with the development of the oil and gas industry at the international level and confirms the determination to position ourselves as a leading institution in innovation and modernization.
He added that the project's expected production is 415 million barrels of oil equivalent, including 9.3 billion cubic meters of gas at the end of the contractual period.
This project, in view of its developmental dimensions, contributes to creating added value within the national economy and supports the local institutional fabric. Within the framework of this project, it is expected to reach a total production of 415 million barrels of oil, including 9.3 billion cubic meters of natural gas during the entire period. These are figures that enhance Algeria's energy balance, support our goals of ensuring energy security, and enhance our export capabilities.
Let's note that a framework agreement was signed between Sonatrach and Eni Corporate University for a period of 3 years aimed at developing the skills of Sonatrach staff and transferring the know-how. You are still listening to Radio Algeria International. The Director General of the National Security, Ali Badawi, has stressed the need to adopt a rigorous approach to developing cybersecurity in order to deal with this form of threat, which has become one of the main challenges facing police institutions. In a speech delivered at the opening of the 13th meeting of the Steering Committee of the African Union Police Cooperation Mechanism, AFRIPOL, Mr. Badawi said that it is now clear that cyber threats represent one of the major challenges for police institutions.
بات يقينا أن التهديدات السيبرانية
It is certain that cyber threats have become the most important challenges facing police forces, requiring from us to unify our efforts and harness all energies to combat and prevent them by adopting a solid approach to support and develop cyber security by establishing effective mechanisms for technical cooperation and establishing partnerships with specialized centers, which is what our country is keen on in all international and Arab forums. Therefore, I want to emphasize the need to ensure taking practical measures to coordinate efforts, especially in the field of exchanging information, strengthening control over various websites and social media networks, and supporting security measures.
The Director General said that the meeting was taking place within a particular international and regional context due to serious security threats facing the African region and the world in general, in particular the proliferation of transnational organization or organized crime, terrorism and violent extremism facilitated by technological means and artificial intelligence techniques. In this respect, he stressed the need to take concrete steps to coordinate efforts, notably in terms of information exchange and support for border security arrangements, as well as the development of reform and prevention programs against violent extremism. Meanwhile, the Executive Director of Afripol, Jalal Shalba, for his part, said that the meeting is taking place against a backdrop of numerous security challenges and difficulties on the African continent which need to be tackled, including organized and cyber crime, drug-related crime, fraud, and other types of crimes. The representative of the chairman of the Afripol General Assembly, Simon Mwangi, hailed the Algerian authorities' ongoing support for Afripol with a view to strengthening peace and security in Africa.
On behalf of the African Union Mechanism for Police Cooperation, Afripol, I take this opportunity to sincerely appreciate the Algerian government for not only hosting Afripol headquarters, but also for always according us ample opportunity to hold the steering committee meetings. Afripol is the African Union technical institution that is charged with the mandate of strengthening cooperation between police agencies of the African Union member states in the prevention and fight against organized transnational crimes, terrorism, and cybercrime.
The two-day meeting will discuss a number of topics, including the presentation of the report by the Afripol Secretariat and a report on the mechanism's activities for the period from May to July 2025, as well as a presentation on the state of transnational crime in Africa. And now, contrary to the illusions of the French far right, which has never come to terms with Algeria's independence, Boualem Sansal was not affected by the presidential pardon decreed by President Tebboune on the occasion of July 5th. Gemma Selmani has the details.
Boualem Sansal remains in reality a prisoner of his own fantasies, much older than his trial, and above all, he constitutes the ideal alibi to relaunch, as expected, a new campaign of hatred and disinformation against Algeria. Behind this offensive is the French media mob, subservient to the Bolloré networks, always ready to attack Algeria, its people, and its sovereignty. For months, paid journalists and fake intellectuals turned arsonists have been recycling the same rhetoric, claiming Sansal is the symbol of an oppressive regime that must be made to bend through thinly disguised diplomatic blackmail. And so much the worse if France, a greater moralizer, has more than 2,297 nationals behind bars around the world without ever crying about the national tragedy. But for them, Algeria must bend, because it dares to try on its soil and according to its laws, an Algerian citizen by birth, trained by its universities, employed by its institutions, and retired as a senior government official. Boualem Sansal is not a hostage. He was tried for an offense related to internal order, linked to national unity, a red line for any state worthy of the name. So where is France in all this? Nowhere, except in a neo-colonial stance adopted by a section of a political class lacking direction and persisting in conditioning bilateral relations on its level of interference.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and the 59th regular session of the Human Rights Council is to wind up tomorrow in Geneva. During the 33rd meeting of the Council, the representative of Algeria has reaffirmed that the country's commitment to preventing and eliminating all forms of violence against women and girls, including economic violence.
We also welcome the reference made to the contribution of the family as the fundamental unit of society in preventing violence against women and girls and protecting their rights. We welcome the removal of language on inheritance from the final draft, as it reflects a constructive spirit and commendable respect for the diverse legal, cultural and religious frameworks of member states. Algeria reaffirms its strong and long-standing commitment to preventing and eliminating all forms of violence against women and girls, including economic violence. In this regard, Algeria has adopted a comprehensive legal framework aimed at addressing violence against women and girls. However, we do regret that once again, consensus on this important initiative remains fragile. Unfortunately, the draft resolution retains many of the controversial language from previous iteration. We would like to recall that language that has been subject to repeated amendments and dissociations over the years cannot be referred to as consensual nor as agreed language.
That was the representative of Algeria speaking at the 59th regular session of the Human Rights Council. And now, as indirect negotiations have resumed in Doha to try and reach a ceasefire in Gaza, more strikes were carried out today by the Israeli occupation army against the territory, killing and wounding several Palestinians. At least 29 people were killed and several others wounded in today's airstrikes, which hit notably a displaced camp in the southern town of Khan Yunis. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. That's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our health magazine, compiled and presented by Mohammed Khatil.